my God, pinch me that I get up every day and I look at the Salish Sea and I see the Olympic Mountains and I know the ocean is on the other side, the ocean that's between you and me, although not today. And I and I get to touch people all over the world, right? Through electronics, I'm in touch with the globe. Oh my God, what a privilege. What a privilege. It is about awakening the person across from me or the persons I am with, meeting them exactly where they are and helping them to recognize, you're longing for something. Let us see if we can open the door for you to perceive it. Open up that camera lens a little bit wider. Ultimately, that led me first to the principle of sovereignty. Yes, multisyllabic word, but break it down. Sovereign means self-ruling. Quite simple, actually, in a very ancient philosophical perspective from many different traditions. And I realized that was what was true for me. My mother had given me this chest when I was 5. I was verbal very early as a child and probably very precocious. Anyway, it said, "To thine own self be true," which turns out to be quite prophetic. I am alchemical seer, sovereign, radiance, black pearl beauty, generous, effervescent, riding on the winds of joy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our episode of the Happiness Hour. Today, I have with me a dear friend, mentor, coach, leader, Janet Harvey. Janet is a pioneer, author, speaker, coach, educator, and the CEO of InviteCHANGE, a global leader in human development services. With nearly 30 years of experience and over 12,000 coaching hours, Janet has guided individuals, teams, and organizations to unlock their potential through generative wholeness. Under her leadership, Invite Change has partnered with global brands like Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, fostering authentic leadership and sustainable growth. Janet, an ICF master coach, former global president and thought leader, empowers leaders worldwide to create workplaces where people thrive. She is the author of interesting titles of her books, which I would love to share, is Invite Change Lessons from 2020, The Year of No Return, and her latest book, From Tension to Transformation, A Leader's Guide to Generative Change. And she thrives on that space of tension to create that change or transformation for another individual. I have personally experienced it and really grown from it. So thank you so much, Janet, for being here with us today and
Mm.
joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a joy to know the decade or more that you and I have walked together and to have this precious moment. Thank you for it.
Thank you. I've seen you as a force to reckon with, a front runner, a natural leader. Nothing holds you down. You moved from working in the corporate world to becoming a coach to being a leader of change and transformation today. Can you share a little about your journey with us?
Sure, happy to. I often get asked this question, how did you get to where you are? And what were your deliberate decisions? And the truth is, I didn't make deliberate decisions until a long time into my work. Uh, I was blessed and when I came into a human body with a lot of capability. And I didn't really know what to do with it, I think, early on. I spent 14 years at Charles Schwab and Company, and I was one of those leaders that was seen early, given lots of opportunity, and we kind of had a love-hate relationship with each other because I am a natural renegade. I'm an alchemist. I see opportunity in things. I'm not afraid to take a risk. And I would often get assignments that everybody would look at me and go, "Why are you doing that project?" I'm like, "Because I can and it's interesting. Like, why wouldn't you do this project?" Right? Oh, goodness. And of course, along the way, I had a lot of lessons to learn about relationship building and collaboration and what creates trust and safety and what doesn't. And just, life. Life gives us lots of opportunities to choose disruption and to learn from it. And The last big disruption actually was our chairman, who goes by Chuck. And I was the grand recipient of a project to change 6,000 people's lives. And about that time, so this is early 90s, about that time, coaching was not a thing yet. Oh, yeah, people have been coaching since humans could grunt with each other. We naturally want to take care of each other. And um, appreciative inquiry and dialogue methods, these were all starting to make their way into organizational life. And this project was going to take these people who had come to the organization for service roles and turn them into sales roles. Like sales was a word nobody spoke in the hallway. 3 months into this 18-month project, I still had people saying, "Does Chuck know you're doing this?" Like it was just unbelievable to people. And ultimately, we ended up designing what I would call today team coaching. And I did work with one to many long before I did one to one. I know I have a tendency to do things a little backwards. Anyway, it was outrageously successful. And once we finished getting everything integrated into the systems, I walked into my boss's office and I said, so I was standing on my deck last night and I had this idea go through my head that you're about to let me go. So before you do that, I'm going to negotiate my exit because the truth is, I'm done here. I really want to go be an entrepreneur. And he took a deep breath and he pushed his chair back and he kind of smiled at me and he said, I think we can work with what you have put forward and let me get back to you tomorrow, which he did. And so I got my financial package, I got my contract to work with them to launch my entrepreneurial career. I got a big beautiful party. In fact, the CFO walked up to me at one point and said, "You might not look quite so happy to be leaving." But to me, it wasn't that I was leaving. It was I was taking everything out of that 14 years with me and being a representative of the amazing work of that organization and to this day, that organization. Then there are ads on television that are the result of the work I did in the early 90s. And that just feels so good, right? Deeply grateful for that. So that was 1996. I launched my entrepreneurial career at the time. It was my maiden name is Manchester. I was 8 months into my work and I was already billing 18 days a month. It's like, this is nuts. I can't do this. This is too much work. Started to build a team. We started working nationwide. I spent my life on airplanes for 3 years and went, this is nuts. Took a sabbatical. Met my now husband, moved to Washington. I live on this beautiful island. Like, oh my God, pinch me that I get up every day and I look at the Salish Sea and I see the Olympic Mountains and I know the ocean is on the other side, the ocean that's between you and me, although not today.
No.
And I and I get to touch people all over the world, right? Through electronics, I'm in touch with the globe. Oh my God, what a privilege. What a privilege. And the work has always been about awakening consciousness. We call it coaching or education or consulting or human development is to me, the bigger meta level. It is about awakening the person across from me or the persons I am with, meeting them exactly where they are and helping them to recognize, you're longing for something. Let us see if we can open the door for you to perceive it. Open up that camera lens a little bit wider. I have been doing that work the entire adult life. I did it before Schwab, but it gave me structure that I could then hold my own and step into. And generative wholeness is the way I am able to articulate that for access for more people. But the truth is, it's this time we connect with each other at our deep humanity that matters. And I think it will matter much more as the next decade unfolds with lots of tumultuous change.
Beautiful. So it's ultimately listening to your heart and taking that leap of faith
Yes.
and saying, I'm ready for the next adventure. How did you come about with the phrase or term generative wholeness? Because you've trademarked it and it's something that you work with.
Yeah. So I think in the early 2000s, I kept asking the question, why does what we do work? And in this case, coaching. And nobody could answer the question, at least not to my satisfaction. I like to get past the jargon and try to really get down to the what's the observable behavior that suggests something is moving into a more desired state. Not good, not bad, but the movement is what I was interested in. And ultimately, that led me first to the principle of sovereignty. Yes, multisyllabic word, but break it down. Sovereign means self-ruling. Quite simple, actually, in a very ancient philosophical perspective from many different traditions. And I realized that was what was true for me. My mother had given me this chest when I was 5. I was verbal very early as a child and probably very precocious. Anyway, it said, "To thine own self be true," which turns out to be quite prophetic because I am different. I'm visibly different with a birthmark on my face, but there are many other ways in which I always felt like I was out of sync and out of time in some way. And I came to realize everybody feels that way. It's like, oh, okay, so I'm not special. I get it. And I'm special, right? Both are true at the same time.
Yeah.
And so this idea that um, leaders would say to me that they just knew, they either knew in their gut or they knew in their heart intuitively that a certain direction was the right direction to go in. And I started to realize, they had faith in their ability to choose. And then I went, how come? So I began to recognize that listening interiorly, so this is long before I really did a spiritual walk, but listening interiorly was a really important part of how they came to have acceptance and faith and confidence and stepped off the ledge. And then so that was great. And I started bringing that into my work. And then I asked the next question, how are you sustaining your success? Lots of change in your industry, growth in your company. You're always bringing new people on. How do you stay in the place of sustaining excellence? And they couldn't answer that question. So, generative in the dictionary is all about producing results. And so I started asking that question. How do you produce results consistently? Couldn't answer it. Well, that my alchemist said there is an answer to this, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. And the first capability was learning. And I don't mean book learning. I mean the deep call in the belly that says, I'm going to put myself purposely, deliberately in a space that is uncomfortable to me so that I can break sets with what I've come to know and have wisdom about. And in doing that, they activated original thinking. Like they knew that they had to have something be unfamiliar and uncomfortable in order to be able to listen to, I don't know, what you and I might call the life force come into them. Okay, that made a lot of sense to me. So then the next piece was, well, what did you do with all of that imagination and the ideation? And they said, well, one of the things that they had to learn early in their careers was don't tell everybody. And I said, right, overwhelm. Yes, exactly. So how did you manage that? Well, it became really fun. I could have it in my head, and I had some trusted colleagues, right? So we talk about getting a board of directors or a group of people that you hang with that you don't have to act on everything that you're saying, but you can say everything. And then two or three would often distill, and they would say, those are the ones that I would take to the team as a question. In the beginning, I took it as this is what we're going to do. But with time, every single leader began to realize, oh, it has to be an invitation. Now you can see the roots of the new company name, Invite Change, that happened in 97. Anyway, I there was one more piece. As the team began to debate and discuss and put some flesh on the bones, Then we had to have a creative process. So it was a real commitment to experimentation and piloting and building some discipline around that, that we didn't produce something out in the market without us first really taking it through its paces. This idea that we talk about in marketing, a minimum viable product. They all understood. Somehow they just intrinsically understood learn, originate, and create all stood behind produce. So I said, what if all four of those could be accessed all the time? What if you could fluidly move between those four capacities? What would be different? And uh, they began to say, well, let's talk about that with the team.
Mm.
Let's see how does that give us a lens into how we're building the workplace. And out of that came, everybody has the holy grail of growth. Well, you can't grow if you can't scale. And scale is more than delegation. It is creating the conditions, the environment where people that are at other parts of the organization, hierarchically other levels, step into more authority. That they choose to accept responsibility for more than what's inside their job role. And now you're starting that generativity at every level of the organization. Okay, so now we bring up change. And the problem is, everybody frames change as what they don't like. What they're uncomfortable with is the uncertainty on the other side of the change. So if we pay attention to that, then we start to ask people, who are you? What matters to you? What are you believing about your purpose here in the world? What are you believing about your ability to grow and have more capability? That whole journey is authenticity and the path to wholeness. So it really came out of my clients and my deep curiosity about how did they produce the success they have. And generative wholeness then becomes the language by which we put those two things together, those journeys. And we started to build our coaching approaches that way, our organizational culture consulting that way. And then I bought a coaching company in 2006 that I had been on faculty and built all of our curriculum that way.
Fascinating. So life does reflect back what you need to really be doing next, and it's just about picking the signs and putting them together. Yeah.
And I know that doesn't sound deliberate and intentional. It became deliberate and intentional when I accepted that what I was seeing was real, right? I had to learn to listen to my inner voice and accept responsibility for choosing how I would allow myself to express in the world. And that cycle never stops. And the minute I
Yeah.
think I have figured it out, oh, something comes in from stage left and says, not so fast. There's another piece.
But when you work, we talked about authentic leadership
Mhm.
and authenticity. And what do you think, have you seen in your 30 years as the biggest barrier for leaders to be authentic?
You know, uh, I'm going to use the word identity. I think that so much of modern life, this isn't true everywhere on the planet, but in most places where commerce has come to a place where everybody gets up in the morning and realizes they go to some livelihood. And we have this achievement gene inside of us. There are two things all humans need is human connection and an opportunity to grow. But I think we kind of put it in hyperdrive. I know it was true for me. My parents always said, work hard, harder than anybody else, and you'll get rewarded. And that was early patterning till I realized life did not have to be that hard.
Yeah.
So, but I think everybody comes to that realization in a different way. Some people by having a heart attack or some tragedy in their lives, right? And they have a spiritual awakening, and then they start to find something that for them is greater wholeness and harmony interiorly. But what I have seen in so many leaders at every level of organizations is that they're driven by what's not yet manifest. And that's a scarcity mindset. It's not an abundance mindset that everything is already achieved. Ben Zander's wonderful work as the head of the orchestra, you've already got an A. Now, let's build on that, right? And and I think that that's a big piece of the maturation journey in leaders. If they're not feeling like they've made it to the top of the mountain, they start to say things like, I don't deserve to have a seat at the table. I don't want them to figure out I have no idea what I'm doing. And so they wear a mask, they wear a persona until it's hollow, right? Something is occurring in their lives and they realize, wow, can everybody see how miserable I am? And oftentimes it takes that, right? This is the terrible 360 feedback, dreaded, oh, they don't like me. Did you figure out you don't like yourself? And that that's what's causing you to behave in the way you are that others are mirroring back to you.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways we've made it so difficult for people at the top of the house, maybe even in the middle of the house, to pull back for perspective and to recognize the tension they're feeling is a function of not being in alignment, not being values aligned, not being true to themselves, to thine own self be true. And um, that's what's making them miserable. So when they can hear that and accept responsibility, make a new set of choices with some faith that wherever they land, everything that's happened in their life is coming with them, and that's wisdom and experience. They'll land on their feet should they choose it. That's agility. No, it's not about change anymore. Change is always happening. Our body changes more than almost anything in our environment. We replace our blood every 7 years. I mean, come on, people.
Yeah.
Change is not the problem.
It's about embracing the fact that reality, that truth that you cannot
Yeah,
escape.
yeah,
Embracing the life force energy and saying it's going to push me forward. I might as well partner with it.
yes. I often say, Ashu, being human has no destination.
That
It
is,
simply asks
I
us to
mean,
be conscious, deliberate, intentional, and wholehearted, that our choices to thrive are inside of us. And that does not excuse the horrific circumstances that people are living in some parts of the world. But there are humans who have choices that can change that. And we must accept responsibility as a society to do so.
to do our best at changing whatever we can to lifting humanity together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's why the work you and I do in the world in our various ways and forms is contributing to that. We're on the cusp of not just a fourth industrial revolution as the talk about it in the World Economic Forum, but I think we're in the shift of a societal change that begins to understand every person's right to have their own authentic voice without compromising the dignity of another human being. And gave myself goosebumps.
Give, yeah. So the word that's coming to my mind is a collective consciousness revolution.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
I think
think
that's right.
that's,
I think that's what's afoot.
yeah, is recognizing that we are, internet's done that, COVID's done that, that we
Yeah,
are interconnected and we are the same at the core. And I think it's a realization or an awakening that is coming to the surface more and more.
yes.
Oh, yeah. On that note, I'm going to, happiness means different thing to different people.
Mhm.
And it is our essence.
Indeed.
What are your views or what has been your journey on recognizing that?
Uh, so one of the things in my work that I was introduced to actually through the coaching paradigm is this idea of an essence statement. I knew about essence from my spiritual work and the full expression of the self. But I hadn't really made it concrete and practical until I began the exploration of, what is my essence today? And I began to understand that I'm always evolving, right? Lots of pieces and parts here. But if I bring it all together, as I began to recognize, claim, and declare my essence, life just got easier. I can't explain it. It's that moment of releasing any need to define my identity externally. People say to me all the time, why aren't you one of these people who pounds your chest? And I said, why? Why does anybody need to do that? If I can look in the mirror and have unconditional self-love, then I can see other people. And that's what matters to me is that depth of connection. So it began with claiming and declaring my essence, which is I am alchemical seer, sovereign radiance, black pearl beauty, generous effervescence, riding on the winds of joy. And my practice is to quiet into my faith, listen deeply to my soul, and answer its call. That's the seed of my happiness.
Powerful and beautiful.
And that's accessible for everybody, every single one of us.
Indeed. What practices do you follow to listen to the call of your soul and to have the agility to do it?
They're ordinary. One of my favorite is being in the garden pulling weeds. There isn't anything more extraordinary than watching the beauty reemerge in my garden when I pull the weeds out.
Yeah, it's
And
pulling them out of yourself, actually.
exactly, exactly. I mean, it's just such a wonderful way for me to disconnect from all the other ways that my creativity expresses. And that pursuit of beauty, that's a metaphor, right? Dance and all the physical movement. So Pilates, stretching. Um, I love water aerobics. I mean, I move my body, and this gives me access to, I don't know, some combination of gut instinct and heart-based intuition. My body always knows well in advance of my head figuring it out. Took me a little while to
Mm.
figure that out, but once I got it, it was like, oh, just let those thoughts go by. The other is music. There's always music in our house when we have guests coming. They're like, wow, this is really nice. Do you have music on all the time? I'm like, yes. And when I'm writing, I'm usually listening to classical music. When I am reviewing material, I'm usually listening to something more melodic. Sometimes it's just ocean waves. Right? Music, the the unconditional expression of other humans that I let just wash through me. Um, Meditation. Although I recognize sometimes I'm not that good at it. And when I feel the tension of you really should be meditating, I'm like, I'm going for a hike. And I go out in nature, right? And I go find, we have a wonderful bluff hike a little bit further up the island from where I live. And I can see out the Straits of Juan de Fuca that are right there is the Pacific Ocean. And I remember I'm a grain of sand on a massive beach that covers America and covers all continents here, from the Antarctic to the Arctic. And I've been to both poles, and I get it. I get this insignificant significance we have. So I think the greatest thing to happiness is remembering that humility and what a privilege it is to be incarnated in a body. Quite special.
That is the biggest gift we have,
Mm.
to be incarnated in a body that can experience this wholeness and experience the entire journey and every ride and every wave, and actually uh, stand tall even after that.
My
uh,
husband and I always talk about how, and when he gets on the other side, he's gonna talk to God about how come I got so much and how come Janet got so much and I didn't get so much. And I say to him, and when you get on the other side, your angels are gonna inform you about how much overtime they've been doing on your behalf. You got plenty, man.
yeah, you just refuse to see it.
Yes. Ah, it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that I have been through these podcasts been very keen to push, or rather inspire the world to look at is the relationship between happiness and
Mhm.
leadership, sorry, the
Yeah,
relationship between happiness and leadership. Uh, we are so driven by external metrics
yeah,
rather than the internal alignment and the internal agility. What is your experience on this?
yeah. I think this intersection is a really honorable thing you're bringing through this podcast. I listened to some of your other episodes. What it reminded me of is how often leaders will come to coaching because they're feeling what we label as burnout. Um, Overstressed, can't seem to restore themselves, frayed at the edges, pushing against people, their system, their teams. And as we were just talking about, it's really more a function of where they abandon themselves. So to me, leaders are accepting responsibility for being a role model. It's like being a parent. Once you give birth, you don't get to put back your parent card. You're a parent until your last breath, right? And every choice you make is what your kids are looking at. They're not paying attention to what you say because the body knows first. So what I'm often doing with leaders in the early going is helping them to RE dash to remember themselves, to remember their emotions, to remember their physicality, to remember breathing in some cases. We start there because they hold their breath a lot and then wonder why they get fatigued. Um, I never start a coaching engagement without really thoroughly in examining what are the identity factors that are moving through your life right now. What's your family situation? What's your history? What worldview? Where did you come from? What are the beliefs that you live by, the guiding principles that you practice? And how are they manifesting the sense of well-being or not? Where are you denying the things that you know are true to who you are? And this is a dialogue, a thought-provoking conversation that most very successful leaders don't pause to have because it doesn't fit that external KPI metric, right? And yet they're miserable.
Yeah.
So, I've actually started talking to CHRs about this. Stop trying to justify coaching by figuring out whether it's creating profitability or not. What's the pulse? Are the people in your organization in well-being? And if they're not, then this is about bringing them back home to themselves. This is what coaching does. If you want productivity, bring people back home to themselves. It is a remembering process. And some of it is quite simple. I had one chief medical officer who remembered that early in her career, she always brought flowers from her garden. She loved to plant wildflowers, photograph wildflowers, paint wildflowers. She had nothing in her office. It was barren. So one simple step was bring flowers. Bring flowers to your desk. Could be one,
Yeah.
might be two. You figure it out. She started to send me pictures of the bouquets that she had in her office. And she said, and my team, when they come for one-on-ones, they smile the minute they walk in because they see the flowers on the desk. I said, oh, it has a ripple effect, does it? Isn't that interesting? All right. So, metaphor, where else in your life do you want to bring in more beauty? How do you bring that into your interactions at the office? She was off and running. And she learned to ask the question. When she'd get a request, she'd ask the question first, is this mine to do? If it's not mine to do, who on my team could it be for? Who's ready for the next stretch? What would that ask of me to help that person with the next stretch? Because the more I do that, the more I'm available for the things that are important as a corporate executive here. that are for the good of the company, not necessarily my vertical function. This is producing the next generation of CEOs, whether in that organization or another one. But it all begins with the remembering. Otherwise, we don't see it.
Yeah, it reminds me of my when how I started my journey, remembering who I was as a child to saying, how can I be that person again?
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, and in a way, going backwards and forwards at the same time.
Interesting you land on the word time because I think timelessness is another piece that we work with leaders on.
Yeah,
Stop worrying about the bloody 90-day calendar. You
yeah, the
must
journey
be
of
able to,
transformation has
yeah,
no
it doesn't have a
calendar.
schedule and it
Yeah,
happens continuously.
yeah,
Now, if you can keep your eye on the horizon, the mind has the ability to see everything down the road. This is how we train high-speed drivers, by the way. They learn to see all the way to the horizon because the psyche can get everything else and will make the adjustments necessary to get there without hitting any obstacle. But that takes some courage. Not look at that short term. Recognize you'll come upon it and you'll know the choices because you can look out more than one generation and understand the cascading effect of the decisions you make. This is an important strategic maturity for leaders. Again, we won't do that if we're here thinking this
and
defines who
not,
I am, right? We've got
yeah,
to go here.
letting go of that identity syndrome.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. On that note, last one sentence of advice to our listeners, which you would like to give.
In those moments when it feels like you're climbing up a mudslide like a snowball, just stop, breathe, feel your entire body. Remember, you're privileged to be alive. Be grateful and allow the smile that comes to activate your joy. It will always carry you.
I'm sure this will carry many of us forward. Thank you for that. And on that absolutely joyful note, I will say thank you, Janet. Thank you for being here and joining us today. I
Treat.
really appreciate you sharing your experiences and your wisdom.
My pleasure and my honor. Thank you, Ashu.